Speaking of fun things that's happening, uh, this Tuesday we have election day. Obviously, the odd year elections are very quiet compared to the midterms, but we do have gubernatorial races in New Jersey and Virginia. We also have Proposition 50, which would allow the state of California to temporarily gerrymander through the 2030 census, where it would revert to its original independent gerrymandering. And it's interesting because to me, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, folks, but the gubernatorial races, I have been underwhelmed by both. Now, what do I mean by that? I think Sherrill should win. I think Abigail Spanberger should win even more comfortably. I think that the her opponent in Virginia is quite weak, and Sherrill, the guy who's opposing Mikie Sherrill, came within 4 points of beating Phil Murphy 4 years ago. So he has to be taken seriously. But what really gets me is that when I say underwhelmed, it means neither of the candidates are doing what the Democrats need to do, and that is address the issues, stand up to the things that cost them in 24, which many people view as the woke issues. And I just haven't seen this gets to a greater theme, and we've talked about this before, of I don't see the Dems looking in the mirror and saying, okay, this is why we lost. This is what we have to do. Again, you go back to Bill Clinton in 1992, he stood up to his party on free trade, on the death penalty, on a lot of issues, and you're just not seeing that here. So I think they should win both races, but it still doesn't bode well for future races. What do you think? Why don't you start with you, Ashley?
Yeah, I don't think Republicans well, first of all, I definitely think Mamdani wins in New York,
Yes.
and I think he wins soundly. I mean, it was funny, I was watching headlines today, and they're like, "He Cuomo's narrowing the gap," but it went from, like, 12 plus 12 to plus 10. I mean, like, you're not gonna overcome that. But I
Well,
still
Sliwa
think both
won't drop
Democrats.
out of the race. I mean, if he dropped out of the race, he's getting between 10 and 15%. If he dropped out, I think that then it's within the margin of error. But my secret theory is that because he's a Republican, he wants to stay in because he thinks if Mondami wins, it'll help Republicans nationally, which I have to say is not an unfathomable strategy.
Yeah. I also just think that he doesn't wanna be told what to do, but and do those voters really go to Cuomo or not? I don't know, but, who knows? But that so Virginia, yes, Spanberger's gonna win. Winsome's trying to do this last minute thing of painting her, kind of on men and girls sports or boys and girls sports, things like that, but I just don't know if that's an issue like it really was, 4 years ago when Youngkin won. I mean, obviously, it's not the same. New Jersey, I think is gonna be obviously, like, exactly what you said, closer. I just don't think a Republican can pull it off. She's not a very good candidate either. She obviously has a lot of baggage with some of her, you know, past investments and things like that, but I just don't know if anyone cares. I mean, you're coming from a Menendez state, right? They're used to jail. But no, seriously, I just don't think Republicans win, and I don't think anyone should act like we.
But one thing that's encouraging is that these two candidates are the type of candidates, irrespective of how strong or weak their campaigns have been, that are the future of the Democratic Party. Moderate, pragmatic people. They both served in the military. These are the people that can get elected nationally. What do you think, Kurt, on this whole thing?
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, on one hand, in California, the redistricting initiative will, by all measures, pass pretty easily. I think the last poll I saw, the support for the redistricting initiative was plus 19, and that has more of a national implication, right? That's less about California per se, and more about trying to level the playing field with the gerrymandering that's been happening in Republican legislators throughout the country. You go to New York, and obviously, I mean, the reality is Mondani has run a very effective campaign from the very beginning when he was ignored, underestimated, even mocked against the great Cuomo political machine. And I think that election has more to do with, no one put up a viable candidate opposite Mondani whether it's a Democrat primary or the Republican side. They put very flawed individuals up, and so he's going to walk into the mayor's office, and we'll see what happens when he actually gets in the job. People love to campaign and make grand promises, and then they get into office and realize the world doesn't actually bend to your will that way. And City Hall, particularly, has a way of forcing you to be more pragmatic rather than an ideologue. I did think it was interesting that at the last second, former Mayor Michael Bloomberg decided to dump $1 million into the race to try to prop up Cuomo after swearing that he would not get involved at all. I don't think that's going to be a good investment, and it's a bad look for Bloomberg. I think New Jersey is going to be it's going to be pretty close. If polls have it at right now, Democrats up +5. Again, this is an off-year election. Turnout is usually low. Only diehards actually come out to vote. It wouldn't shock me if on election night it turns out like, oh, it's a nail biter, or it could be the exact opposite. It could be a blowout. I mean, that's the thing about these off-year elections. Nothing going on in New Jersey has any broader national implications, in my opinion. That's why no one's really been talking about it until the last few weeks here. It's been kind of a snooze fest. Virginia's been interesting. Ironically, not at the top of the ticket. Everyone expects Abigail to walk in and win this thing. It's been the attorney general's race that's gotten all the attention. Jay Jones, the Republican or the Democrat, has just gone upside down. He had a huge lead on Abigail's coattails, and now he's underwater. He's the last poll I saw hit him down -3. So we might actually have this weird situation where Democrats win the governor's race, the lieutenant governor's race, but Republican wins the attorney general. That almost
But
never
that's just the
happens
candidate
anymore.
issue. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What will be fun is seeing everyone, all of us included, cherry picking how this somehow will affect the midterms or the 2028 contest. I don't think any of that has anything to do with what will happen in the coming years, but it'll give us something to talk about.
Well, and just a couple of comments on the New York mayoral race. First of all, Michael Bloomberg, I'm a huge fan of his overall, but he deserves a lot of the blame for putting us in this situation, as we've discussed before, because it was the Democratic establishment in New York that didn't put up a stronger candidate initially when they could
Hmm.
have. And everyone knew Cuomo had a lot of baggage. Everyone knew all the skeletons he has in the closet. So that's point number one. And point number two is when you look at Mandami, everybody opposes his policies, and almost every group of voters he is losing. But in the Generation Z category, he is literally winning by 60%. You cannot make this up. And so this is something that I think we should really examine. What does this say about Gen Z? What does this say about voting trends in the future American electorate? Because to me, it's quite a fascinating thing. But also, I wanted to talk about the Supreme Court.
Well, Jay,
Always
wait real
interesting.
quick. I just want to say this is where I think AOC is a dangerous candidate when all the Republicans are like, we would love to run against her. No, because she
Yeah.
gets that same excitement and that gets people out to vote that otherwise won't.
I always say, just piggybacking on that, Republicans should learn from the mistakes of Democrats in 2016 when they all said, "Gee, would it be great if Donald Trump were the nominee? How easy would it be for us?"
Yeah,
I feel like there's a little bit of that hubris play that could backfire tremendously. Like again, I don't think that AOC is electable on a national level in a general election, but I do think she's incredibly talented. She is a very effective communicator. I think on a debate stage, she would carve up almost anyone opposite her. And you can never underestimate the power of personality. Like we live at a time where personality trumps policy. We see it over and over and over again. And here you have someone who, like her or not, creates very strong feelings, pro and con. And anytime you have someone who has the ability to do that, to animate, to excite, to incite, they are formidable and should not be looked over.
No, I
exactly.
think that's
Donald
true.
Trump.
And remember Jimmy
Hmm.
Carter's famous words: "If they just nominate Reagan, we'll be fine."
Exactly.
So anyway,
Exactly. We
as
want
I
to
was
run
saying,
against that actor.
yeah, exactly, exactly.